Welcome to ancient Egypt, a land of towering pyramids, powerful pharaohs, and eternal gods. A civilization that stood for over 3,000 years, shaping the very foundation of human history. From the mysteries of the pyramids to the sacred rituals of the afterlife. From the rise of the first kings to the fall of a mighty empire, this is the story of one of the greatest civilizations the world has ever known. In this journey, we'll dive deep into the culture, the people, the innovations, and the legends that still fascinate us to this day. Whether you're a history lover or just curious about the wonders of the past, get ready for a thrilling expedition through ancient Egypt. Chapter 1: Geography and Beginnings. Our story begins with a river, the Nile, the lifeblood of ancient Egypt. Stretching over 4,000 miles, the Nile is the longest river in the world, and for the ancient Egyptians, it was everything. Each year, the river flooded like clockwork, leaving behind rich, black silt. This fertile soil allowed agriculture to thrive in the middle of the desert. Without the Nile, there would be no Egypt. Ancient Egypt was divided into two regions: Lower Egypt in the north, near the Nile Delta, and Upper Egypt in the south, where the river winds through narrow valleys. Around 3100 BCE, a legendary king named Narmer, also known as Men's, united Upper and Lower Egypt, becoming the first pharaoh. He wore a double crown, symbolizing unity, and this marked the birth of one of the world's first great civilizations. With the Nile at their heart and the desert as their shield, the Egyptians flourished. Their culture, art, religion, and government began to take form. They developed one of the earliest writing systems, hieroglyphs, used to record everything from religious texts to tax records. They built cities, worshiped powerful gods, and laid the groundwork for millennia of greatness. Chapter 2: The Old Kingdom. Age of the Pyramids. The Old Kingdom, spanning from around 2686 to 2181 BCE, is often called the Age of the Pyramids. It was a time of unity, peace, and tremendous architectural achievement. It all began with Pharaoh Djoser of the Third Dynasty. His advisor, Imhotep, designed the very first pyramid, a step pyramid built at Saqqara. This was no ordinary tomb. It was the prototype for all the monumental tombs that followed. Imhotep, a genius ahead of his time, wasn't just an architect. He was a priest, healer, and scholar. So revered that centuries later, he was worshipped as a god. Then came the Fourth Dynasty, and Pharaoh Khufu, the man behind the Great Pyramid of Giza, built around 2560 BCE. This masterpiece stood over 480 feet tall, made of over 2 million limestone blocks. Even today, we're still debating how it was constructed. Despite popular myths, evidence suggests the pyramids weren't built by slaves, but by skilled laborers, well-fed and housed in nearby workers' villages. Chapter 3: The Middle Kingdom. Reunification and Art. Following the fall of the Old Kingdom, Egypt entered a dark age. Central power crumbled, provinces ruled themselves, famine spread, and civil war fractured the land. This was the first intermediate period, over a century of division and decline. But around 2050 BCE, a new leader rose from Thebes in the south, Mentuhotep II. A warrior and unifier, he restored order, reunified the two lands, and established the Middle Kingdom. The Middle Kingdom, lasting until around 1710 BCE, marked a rebirth of Egyptian culture, stability, and prosperity. And while it lacked the colossal pyramids of the Old Kingdom, it was a golden age of art, literature, and internal reform. Pharaohs of the Middle Kingdom took a more accessible, human role. No longer distant gods, they portrayed themselves as protectors of the people, caring, wise, and just. The art of this era reflects deeper emotional expression. Statues and reliefs show more naturalism, wrinkles, worried brows, aging faces. Even the literature of the time reveals a shift. The tale of Sinai tells of a courtier who flees Egypt, only to yearn for home. It speaks to national pride, loyalty, and identity. The instruction of Amenemhat warns of betrayal and teaches royal duty, perhaps echoing real events. Middle Kingdom rulers also invested in infrastructure, building canals to control the Nile, expanding farmland, and launching mining expeditions into the Sinai. Egypt also expanded into Nubia, securing gold, ivory, and exotic goods. They built massive fortresses along the southern border, testaments to both trade and defense. But as prosperity grew, so did new threats. Toward the end of the Middle Kingdom, Egypt faced waves of migration and infiltration from the northeast. Foreign peoples began settling in the Nile Delta. Eventually, a new foreign power would rise, the Hyksos. They would bring bronze weapons, horses, and chariots, and seize control of Lower Egypt. And so, Egypt once again slipped into division. But this time, what followed would be its most powerful era yet. Chapter 4. The New Kingdom, Empire and Pharaohs. Out of foreign occupation and national humiliation, Egypt rose stronger than ever. Around 1550 BC, the kings of Thebes launched a rebellion, driving the Hyksos out of the Nile Delta and reclaiming their land. The victorious Ahmose I founded the 18th dynasty, and with it began the New Kingdom, an age of empire, power, and unprecedented wealth. For nearly 500 years, Egypt was a global superpower. Its armies marched beyond the Nile. Its gods were worshipped from Sudan to Syria. Its pharaohs became immortal legends. Hatshepsut, the woman who would be king. Among these rulers was Hatshepsut, the first great female pharaoh in recorded history. She ruled not as queen, but as king. For over 2 decades, she brought peace, prosperity, and trade. She sent expeditions to the land of Punt, returning with incense, ebony, and exotic animals. Her reign was a golden age of diplomacy, construction, and economic growth. Though later kings tried to erase her legacy, the stones of Egypt could not forget her. Akhenaten, the heretic king. Then came Akhenaten, a visionary, or a heretic. He abandoned the old gods, closed the temples of Amun, and worshipped only one god, Aten, the sun disk. He moved the capital to a new city, Ekataten, now known as Amarna. Art during his reign became bizarrely realistic, spiritual, and human. But his revolution was short-lived. After his death, Egypt quickly restored its traditional religion. Akhenaten was branded a heretic, his city abandoned, his name nearly erased. Tutankhamun, the boy king. His son, Tutankhamun, ascended the throne at just 9 years old. He died young, but his tomb, discovered untouched in 1922, became the most iconic archaeological find in history. Though his reign was short, King Tut became the face of ancient Egypt for the modern world. Ramses the Great, Egypt's warrior pharaoh. The greatest of them all was Ramses II, Ramses the Great. He reigned for 66 years, led mighty armies, built temples across Egypt, and signed the first known peace treaty in history after the famous Battle of Kadesh. He fathered over 100 children, lived into his 90s, and was worshipped as a god in his lifetime. His legacy was so vast that later pharaohs took his name, just to share in his glory. But even great empires fade. After the long reign of Ramses III, Egypt's power declined. Foreign invasions, internal strife, and economic hardship weakened the state. The last great age had passed, but the memory of the new kingdom would echo through eternity. Chapter 5. Religion and the Afterlife. To the ancient Egyptians, life was only one part of existence. Death was not an end, it was a doorway to eternity. Their religion was deeply woven into daily life. Every city had a patron deity, every home a shrine. Every act, whether farming, bathing, or burying, had religious meaning. A pantheon of gods. The Egyptians believed in a vast pantheon of gods, over 2,000 named deities. Each god represented an aspect of the world or human experience. Ra, the sun god, sailed across the sky by day and through the underworld by night. Osiris ruled the afterlife. Isis, the mother goddess, was the protector of kings. Anubis guided souls through death. Thoth, the ibis-headed god, recorded the judgment of every soul. At death, each person faced judgment. Their heart was weighed against the feather of Mot, the goddess of truth and balance. If the heart was light and pure, they were granted eternal life. If it was heavy with sin, it was devoured by the monstrous Ammit, the Book of the Dead. To prepare for this journey, Egyptians used a sacred guide, the Book of the Dead. This wasn't a single book, but a collection of spells, prayers, and instructions inscribed on papyrus, tomb walls, and coffins. These texts helped the dead navigate the afterlife, avoiding demons, opening gates, and passing trials. It was like a spiritual map, ensuring the soul's safe passage. Mummification, the art of immortality. To reach the afterlife, the body had to be preserved. The process of mummification could take 70 days. Organs were removed, the body dried in natron salts, then wrapped in linen, often with amulets for protection. The heart was usually left in place, or replaced later, because it held the soul's essence. The brain, oddly, was discarded. The body became a sacred vessel, prepared to live forever in the field of reeds, a paradise of abundance, peace, and joy. Temples, homes of the gods. Egyptian temples weren't churches. They were homes for the gods. Only priests could enter the inner sanctum. There, sacred rituals were performed daily, dressing the statue, offering food, incense, and music. During festivals, gods were paraded on sacred boats through the cities, connecting the divine with the people. Religion in daily life. Religion wasn't just for the elite. Farmers prayed to Happy for the flood. Mothers wore charms to protect their children, and even the poorest hoped for a blessed afterlife. In Egypt, belief was not about fear. It was about harmony. The concept of Ma'at, order, balance, truth, was the foundation of life. To live justly, to speak truth, to honor the gods. This was the Egyptian way. For the ancient Egyptians, death was not a goodbye. It was a return to the stars, to the gods, to eternity. Chapter 6. Daily life of ancient Egyptians. While pharaohs built pyramids and priests served the gods, most Egyptians lived humble, hard-working lives. From farmers to artisans, women to children, life along the Nile followed the rhythm of the sun, the river, and the seasons. Farming and food. The Nile's annual flood was the lifeblood of Egypt. Each year, its waters deposited rich silt, turning desert into farmland. Farmers grew wheat, barley, onions, garlic, lettuce, and flax. Bread and beer were the staples of the Egyptian diet. Honey was the only sweetener. Meat was rare for the poor, fish, fowl, and beans were more common. Wealthier Egyptians feasted on goose, beef, and wine. Homes and families. Egyptian homes were made of mud brick, often with flat roofs and open courtyards. Extended families lived together, with clear roles. Fathers worked outside. Mothers managed the household. Women had surprising rights. They could own property, run businesses, and even divorce. Both men and women wore linen clothes and painted their eyes with kohl to protect against the sun and evil spirits. Work and crafts. Egyptian society was highly skilled. Artisans carved temples and tombs with incredible detail. Potters, jewelers, leatherworkers, and weavers kept cities vibrant and prosperous. But the most prestigious profession? The scribe. Literate and educated, scribes recorded everything, from taxes to poetry, and served at the heart of the bureaucracy. Learning to write took years of practice. Only a small percentage of the population could read or write, but their words shaped Egyptian civilization, leisure, and games. Even in a structured society, Egyptians knew how to have fun. Children played with toys made of clay and wood. Adults enjoyed board games like Senet, and musicians performed with lutes, harps, and flutes. They celebrated festivals with food, drink, music, and dancing, often in honor of the gods or to mark the seasons. Animals and pets. Egyptians loved animals. Cats were sacred, linked to the goddess Bastet, and often mummified and buried with care. Dogs, monkeys, and even ibises and falcons were kept as pets or sacred animals. Society and class. Egyptian society was organized like a pyramid. At the top stood the pharaoh, followed by nobles, priests, scribes, and soldiers. Below them, artisans, farmers, and laborers. Despite this hierarchy, there was mobility. A skilled artisan or educated scribe could rise in status, and the state provided stability for those who contributed. From the highest court to the humblest field, the people of Egypt built a civilization that lasted over 3,000 years. Their lives, rooted in nature, guided by the gods, and carried by the Nile, left a legacy still felt today. Chapter 7. Legacy of Ancient Egypt. Scene. The temples have crumbled. The gods no longer walk in stone halls. But the spirit of ancient Egypt lives on. Influence on the ancient world. For millennia, Egypt was the marvel of the world. Greek philosophers like Pythagoras and Plato studied in Egyptian temples. Alexander the Great dreamed of ruling Egypt and founded the city of Alexandria, a beacon of ancient knowledge. The Romans, too, were enchanted. Cleopatra, Egypt's last pharaoh, spoke 9 languages and stood at the crossroads of East and West. Even as Egypt fell to Rome, its legacy endured. Science, art, and writing. Egyptians pioneered science long before it had a name. They performed surgery, tracked the stars, developed a 365-day calendar, and recorded their knowledge on papyrus, the ancestor of modern paper. Their art, stylized and symbolic, still inspires modern design. Their language of symbols, hieroglyphs, was a mystery until the discovery of the Rosetta Stone unlocked its secrets. Mystery and imagination. Few civilizations stir the imagination like Egypt. From ancient times to today, it has captured the minds of poets, scholars, mystics, and dreamers. Its monuments were once considered the work of giants or gods. Its tombs inspired tales of curses. Its names, Tutankhamun, Nefertiti, Ramses, still echo like myth. Modern influence. Egypt's legacy is all around us, from architecture to cinema, fashion to philosophy. Its symbols, ankhs, scarabs, pyramids, remain powerful icons. In museums around the world, millions walk the halls of ancient Egypt. They peer into golden coffins, trace hieroglyphs with their eyes, and wonder. The eternal question: how did a civilization rise from the desert and build something so lasting, so human, yet divine? Egypt shows us that the desire to create, to understand, to connect with something greater than ourselves is timeless. In their pyramids, we see ambition. In their writings, wisdom. In their gods, our own longing for meaning. Closing message. More than 3,000 years have passed since the last pharaoh ruled, but Egypt still whispers through the sands, carved in stone, carried by the Nile, and etched into the heart of history. Ancient Egypt, a civilization eternal. End credits/outro call to action. If you enjoyed this journey through ancient Egypt, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you don't miss our next adventure into history. Let us know in the comments what fascinates you most about ancient Egypt. Until next time, walk like an Egyptian.